Now that we've covered what content you're going to create and we've covered how you are going to write the titles and descriptions of your pins, it's time to talk about the visual aspect of your pin design. This is such an important piece of the equation because if we're smart, it's where we can get the most benefit if we're strategic. Because remember, Pinterest counts new graphics as a fresh pin. So I'm going to show you how to maximize this idea of multiple fresh pins for each piece of content that we create. Now, you might be wondering, how different does an image have to be in order to be considered fresh? Pinterest says minor tweaks to images won't count. The spirit of this is to really change different background images, use new pin titles as overlays on a pin graphic, and to bring in unique images that are helpful and inspiring to pinners. I understand that this may be more work than simply repinning the same pins over and over and over again like people have done in the past, but knowing this new best practice allows us to instead refocus our efforts on bringing in high quality content and looking for new ways to serve our audiences instead of spending time repinning past content of your own or other people's. I personally like this because instead of playing a game of repinning, we can simply put our heads down, create content for our own audience, and focus on getting it in front of our target audience with appealing graphics that they will respond to. Knowing that fresh content on Pinterest simply means new pin design graphics, let's discuss how to create as many pins as possible for each piece of content that we create in our businesses to really maximize our result. One piece of content can easily create 10 to 15 unique pin graphics. So you could start with just the post title overlaid on a plain background. Next, the post title overlaid with a photo of you. Next, the post title with a stock image. You could do the post title overlay with a different stock image. You could do the post title text and a subtitle aimed at a specific audience. Number one, see how I added the simple substitute of how to shift your mindset as a photographer? You could do the post title text and subtitle aimed at a specific audience. Number two, how to tweak your offers as a creative entrepreneur. That's a different audience. You could do the post title text and subtitle aimed at a specific audience. Number three, generate scalable income as a female business owner. You can also split test and try out an entirely different post title. You can split test a different post title and you can really use this new title with numbers 1 through 7 and you could get an additional 15 fresh pins out of this piece of content. You can also take a quote that you just pull from the content itself. And lastly, you could create an infographic with the main points from the post content. See how easy it is to create 10 fresh pins from one piece of content? This strategy not only increases the number of fresh pins you are able to bring into Pinterest, but it'll allow you to really start to see what types of designs resonate the most with your audience. We'll show you in the final module how to analyze the success of your pins and to figure out which pins are performing the best so that you can create more of what's working to further elevate your strategy. As an example, we hadn't previously been creating infographics of our content, but when I dug into our results, I noticed that the infographics I was pinning of other people's content were among my best performing pins. We decided to add this to our pinning strategy because our audience told us that they responded and engaged with that type of content. I also realized that because I was attracting a brand new audience on Pinterest and they didn't know me yet, that pins with the title and graphics versus photos of me were actually outperforming my images, which is the exact opposite of all of my other social media accounts. Even if you think you know what your audience responds to from a visual standpoint, it's important to test these new things out and tune into trends for what people are actually engaging with because it might surprise you and help you fine-tune and elevate your Pinterest strategy. Now let's talk about the difference between visual content and written content. Pinterest is a visual platform and it's important to distinguish the difference between using visual pins and informational pins. If you're a fashion blogger in the home decor space, have products or blogs about recipes, a large portion of your pins are going to simply be images. Think about how you can extend this by having different angles, styling shots in different ways to increase the number of fresh pins you can bring in. In other niches, like for my educational pins, sometimes no graphic is the way to go, and it's best to simply play around with the different titles where the words are the only part of the pin. Look at your pin with a fresh set of eyes. Does the image stand on its own? And will it inspire your audience, or does it need a text overlay for more information about what your post is about? Or does the image take away from the topic you're writing on, and a simple title is enough to pique your audience's interest to click through and read more? For example, if you have a photo of a plated dinner, will the user know if your pin points to the recipe for them to make it? Or are you talking about nutrition in general? Or are you a food stylist showing your food photography? Sometimes more words are needed because the idea is to not trick the person into engaging with our pin. The goal is for the right people to see our pin, know it is for them, and then engage with the content. I can already hear you asking, where do I pin all these pins? On the same board? How many days apart? What I want you to do is to take each one of these pins and pin it to a different board until you have enough pin graphics to pin one to each of your relevant boards related to the topic. Essentially, I want for you to design 10 different pin graphics and put those 10 pins on 10 different boards as the goal. Now, it should be noted that the most up-to-date best practice is that relevance is one of the most important things for the algorithm. It's important to mention that each pin, for example, the 3 pins with subtitles aimed at 3 different audiences, goes on the board that it is most relevant to. It's not necessary to avoid pinning the same link to a board multiple times anymore, but the images should still be fresh each time. This is going to take a little time and practice, but you will fall into a workflow that works for you here. You'll also likely find that you want to add a few fresh boards to your profile to accommodate these alternate pin graphics. We will cover this more in depth in the next module, but I wanted to touch on it here since I know that is a question you have right now. Now, as an example, how I would do this is I pin our typical podcast graphic with a photo and the podcast title onto our Gold Digger podcast board. Next, I'll pin a quote from my episode on my Quotes for Entrepreneurs board. Then I'll play with a few different titles, subtitles, and images and place those pins onto my more specific boards that are geared towards more narrow topics and audiences. If I'm talking about social media, I could pin the pin variations on boards like social media marketing or Instagram marketing for entrepreneurs or Pinterest marketing. And I could also pin this content to my online business tips or running an online business board. You can see how you can leverage one piece of content in so many different ways. One of the pins could target photographers or creative entrepreneurs, and it could be pinned to those boards that I have for those audiences. I could even pin the show notes from the episode onto a board I've reserved just for posts from my blog, titled Post from Jenna Kutcher's blog. Tying in the board niche with the pin graphic and tweaking them to line up will help you more creatively and broadly when creating your various pin graphics to spread them out on your profile. Because each of these pins has a different graphic, you don't have to worry about spreading them out time-wise, meaning you can pin them all in one day right in a row. Pinterest is going to see this as fresh content even though it is pointing to the same URL. Here are some best practices to keep in mind when you design your pins. So first, make sure the pin design is vertical so it takes up more space in people's feeds. The perfect ratio is 2:3 or 1000 by 1500 pixels. We also pin right from Instagram, and Pinterest best practices say that a square can work well as well, which would be 600 by 600 pixels. Pins longer than 1560 pixels will be cut off and your entire image will not be seen in the feed. So you want to make sure that your pins are smaller than that. Number 2, keep the words large and simple to read. Remember, a lot of users will be viewing your pins from their mobile device, so try not to use small or hard to read fonts or pins that are too busy. Number 3, use a high-quality on-brand image. Lifestyle images of real-life settings typically perform better than product shots, but test both for your audience. Remember, Pinterest is a visual platform, so eye-catching images that stand out will perform best. Number 4, use keywords in the description, but also when naming your image before uploading it as a pin in Pinterest. The image file name is also searchable, and so you can get really specific with keywords here that aren't visible in the actual pin, but would still show up in search results. Number 5, with a rich pin, your website will show above the title of your pin. Also consider including your website link, your business name, or logo on the pin graphic for additional brand recognition. Just don't get crazy here making it too large on the pin. We want your headline or the name of the post to be the text that attracts people, and until they are more familiar with you, they aren't going to necessarily care about who you are just yet. Place your logo in the center and bottom of the pin because Pinterest generally puts their buttons in the left corner, and you don't want your logo covered up. The 4 corners are used in Pinterest to display features depending on where your pin is on that platform, so make sure to leave room for those. And lastly, number 6, include a call to action inviting people off of the app into your site in order to read more. Using words like click here, shop, learn more, find, make, or buy encourage the pinner to click through on the pin. Try adding buttons as an illusion since it's not a real button on your pin graphic. Remember, if they click anywhere on the image, it will take them to your website, which is exactly what we want. Call to actions on pin graphics work really well. There are 2 sites that are my secret weapons when it comes to quickly designing multiple on-brand images. I use Canva and Social Squares. The first one, Social Squares, is my favorite place to go for professional stock photos to use in my business because it's a subscription with endless gorgeous images updated monthly to use on your social accounts, your website, or other graphic needs. Here's how I use Social Squares in my business. I'm sharing this with you as my students in the Pinterest Lab because I think it's an amazing resource for people needing help with increasing the amount of fresh pins they bring into the platform. Having a variety of images at your fingertips will help drastically, and many of us don't have photo shoots for fresh images every week. I love to use stock photography for my pin graphics with text overlays to drive traffic to my site. While images of myself do better on Facebook and Instagram where my followers are familiar with who I am, on Pinterest, stock photography performs better because this is new traffic who don't care about who I am just yet. Often, a well-styled stock image is the best route to pair with my informational blog post there. You'll find a bonus from Social Squares in the course showing you how to make different pin graphics for the same piece of content using stock photography. I think it'll be a game changer for you in your efforts to up your quality and quantity of fresh pins in Pinterest. So where the heck do I design all my pins? I love a site called Canva, and I've included a bonus in this module showing my screen as I walk you through creating 5 Pinterest images in less than 7 minutes. I love Canva because they give you optimal Pinterest sizes and design beautiful templates so that you can easily drag and drop in your text and images and point these pins back to your site. This is the simplest way I've found to design multiple images for each piece of content you can create, and the best part is that it's free. If you're still struggling in the design department, my final suggestion is that you look for a template that you love that you can buy and tweak for your branding and use it over and over and over again. There are several templates for sale, and you can get close to what you're looking for, have different layout options, and then customize them to your branding by updating colors and fonts. I found great options on Etsy, directly within Canva, and have worked with freelance designers to develop these templates. Getting these templates squared away is going to save you a ton of time when you batch your images because you can start from a pin graphic that is close to final, customize the title and image, and then you're on your way rather than designing from scratch each and every time. It's also a great way to start to build brand recognition with your audience. They'll start to see your pins over and over and know who they belong to based on the uniform design so that you can work that know, like, trust factor with your audience on Pinterest. There are ones that are compatible with Canva so that you can upload the template, tweak, and then save them for future use. Another step to make sure you are able to fully optimize your pins is to apply for rich pins. A rich pin simply adds extra details to your pins and includes your name, icon, and a link to your website when someone pins from your site. This boosts your brand recognition and adds credibility to your pins. Also, if you update the content that the pin is linked to, your rich pin will also be updated, which keeps it current and up to date. There are a few different types of rich pins you can enable depending on the content you create, like articles, recipes, and products. Because Pinterest has been known to change the steps slightly, and I always want to make sure you have the most up-to-date instructions so that there is no confusion, here are Pinterest instructions for enabling rich pins. This link will be in your workbook as well as inside of this lesson, so you don't have to worry about jotting this down from this slide. You can also Google Pinterest help area and search for rich pins. I'm going to also quickly cover a non-techie way to quickly enable rich pins, but this only works for WordPress users. If that's not you, refer to Pinterest instructions or check out any help articles for your specific platform. You can also ask your web developer, if you have one, to enable rich pins for you. So just know that that is an option as well. First, make sure you have the Yoast SEO plugin installed and activated on your WordPress site. In addition to making sure each of your blog posts is search engine optimized, it can also help you quickly enable rich pins. Next, click on the Social tab in Yoast settings and click on the Facebook tab. Yes, I said that right, the Facebook tab. And make sure the Add Open Graph metadata is enabled. Next, head over to Pinterest Rich Pins Validator and enter any valid URL from your site and hit Validate. I've also included the link in the description of this module and in the workbook for you to quickly click through. You only need to complete this for one page on your site to enable rich pins for all of your pages, but it also can take a few days to take effect, so don't stress if you don't see a change right away. You'll know it's a rich pin when the URL, link, description, and icon is included with each pin from your site. You'll get a message if it was successful, and if you need help troubleshooting, visit the help page linked in the description of this module or check out our Rich Pin Validator help guide. Some questions we commonly get on this topic is, can all websites validate rich pins? If you work for a direct marketing business and you don't have your own website, you will not be able to validate rich pins. Know that this is just a nice to have strategy, and don't stress if you're not able to validate rich pins for your site. Next, how do you know if a pin is rich? Your blog post title will be included along with an excerpt from the actual post, information about you, including your logo and icon, and a call to action button. You'll also know they are rich because when you enter one of your links from your site into Pinterest Rich Pin Validator, you'll get a success message. And lastly, can you validate pins from multiple sites? If you have multiple sites like I do, enable rich pins for where you will most commonly be pinning. For example, I have my main website, a site for my podcast, one for our Airbnbs, a shop, landing pages for my freebies, and a blog. I simply enabled rich pins for the blog because this is where the majority of my pins will be pointing to. You can only do one, so you're just going to have to pick the one that you pin from the most. Now is a great time to pause and take action. Check out the steps outlined in the workbook for enabling rich pins and follow the steps to complete this for your account. That is a wrap. To review, here are all the things that I want you to do from this module. First, schedule out your future content. Next, start to practice designing pins and writing descriptions. Next, install the Save It button on your site. And lastly, apply for rich pins. Up next, we'll be talking about how to automate and schedule your pinning efforts, other pinning strategies you can use to further maximize your reach on the platform, and how to convert your new traffic into paying clients. I can't wait to see you there.